A Colombian drug lord is enjoying himself in a jacuzzi with a woman when he is abruptly shot and killed by a sniper in the water. A former Marine is spending the evening in a motel in Virginia while consuming copious amounts of alcohol. He picks up a gun and resolves to take his own life, after seeing some photos of his former squad and seeing how many of them had passed away. In addition to the PTSD brought on by battle, a funeral is held in his honor a few days later. A former member of the deceased Marines squad, Master Sergeant Brandon, laments the loss of his old comrade and expresses confusion about his decisions, questioning how a legend could come to pass in such a manner. When his friend Major Miller points out that becoming a soldier might have mental health consequences, Brandon starts to question whether this will ever happen to him. Additionally, Miller has given Brandon a new task in Colombia to assist the D on a crucial case. Miller dismisses Brandon's protests, saying he has to focus on his grief, and instead forces him to get into the car that is waiting for him to drive him to the agency's private jet. After traveling for hours, Brandon finally reaches Bogota, where the driver who picked him up can't stop gushing about him because of his incredible career as a top-tier marksman. Upon arriving at the National Police headquarters, Brandon is greeted by Santiago, the officer designated to serve as his observer, and Captain Garza, the police chief, who serves as a liaison between the Colombian law enforcement and the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. Brandon's father, Master Gunnery Sergeant Beckett, is the last person mentioned. Father and son still address one another by their rank out of respect for professionalism, even if they are delighted to see each other again after a long absence. As the meeting gets underway, Brandon finds out that Morales, the head of the Colombian gang, is his intended victim. His organization specializes in snatching up street kids and raising them to be his goons, controlling 60% of the contraband routes that go to the US border. They know that Morales has returned because, in the last several days, all of his rivals, including the man in the jacuzzi, have shown up dead. His network is impossible to track, and no one has seen him in 10 years. The difficulty of that shot suggests that Morales recruited this ex-military sniper to eliminate the competition. According to recent intelligence, Morales is expected to visit his farm shortly. The agents want to employ Brandon as a backup during the raid, but he declines because he doesn't enjoy watching kids. Agent Kate from the D interrupts the argument midway through, enraged that they began the meeting without her, and that this is her operation. She has brought all the farm's information for them to review, and she wants to know if Brandon would approach the task with seriousness. Although he acknowledges that he detests assignments of this nature, Brandon swears to follow instructions. The following day, Brandon hides in the woods with Santiago when Kate's D agents and Garza's police officers approach the farm. Agent Sampson of Homeland Security joins Beckett as he watches the live broadcast from the office. Agent Sampson is concerned that Beckett and Kate are squandering time and money on unverified intelligence. The group parks their trucks safely away and sneaks up on foot, hiding behind the trees until it's safe to move. The squad rushes in and kicks down the home door as soon as Beckett gives them permission, only to find that doing so sets off a trap that causes the entire building to blow up. The agents in the front all perish in the explosion, with the exception of Garza, who is unexpectedly shot in the leg by Morales' hired sniper. The agents in the back escape unharmed. Kate chooses to go to him from behind the farm car in an attempt to assist him escape, but right as she gets there, the sniper opens fire again, instantly killing Garza. With this shot, Brandon locates the enemy and returns fire, but before he can try again, the other sniper escapes by avoiding the bullet in time. Later, when Sampson is back at the station, he is enraged and wants an explanation for what happened. They come to the conclusion that there must have been information selling going on inside the police department. Additionally, Kettle and Brandon point out that the sniper had been waiting for Kate to emerge rather than firing at Garza straight away, indicating that she had been his target from the start, and that wounding Garza's leg had been bait. Only because Kate had inadvertently placed Garza in the path of the sniper did the second attempt fail. Sampson wants to stop the entire operation, but Kate won't give up without a fight, and after a protracted disagreement, Brandon ends it to reach an agreement. The crew has 48 hours to locate the enemy. If they are unable to do so, they will be allowed to return home. Following the meeting, Beckett warns Brandon to exercise caution because the other shooter is likely aware of who he is. After that, Brandon heads to the D staff house in Las Cruces to pick out a place for his stay while he works in Colombia. No matter how much the other agents insist that the security is excellent, Brandon still believes that any competent sniper could shoot their way into any room. El Diablo, the sniper that Morales hired in the interim, is enjoying himself with his girlfriend when he gets a call telling him that Kate and Brandon are staying at the DSAF house. This is El Diablo's chance to make up for the one time he failed to slay them. Coming full circle, Brandon is reading an online article on the passing of his friend, and notes that there is a crisis in the armed services, as a result of the fact that the majority of troops leave the service suffering from various mental diseases. Kate abruptly stops him to express her gratitude for his support during the meeting. She then acknowledges that she has never lost a man while in charge and that she is finding it difficult to cope. Along with her, Brandon believes that there was something unusual about the way Garza was shot. According to the rules of physics, the shot the sniper took should not have been conceivable. Kate clarifies that she wants Morales rather than the sniper, but Brandon draws attention to the fact that her narrow-mindedness has resulted in the deaths of other people. Offended, Kate bolts from the room and starts crying as soon as she gets in the lift since she felt bad for Garza, who had been a close friend of hers. Brandon continues to investigate new bullet varieties and uses a radio to check in on Santiago's security shift. Kate visits a well-known pub for a drink and ends up fighting with a harasser, who allows his hands to wander excessively. She then has a meeting with Carlos, a well-liked priest in the neighborhood who helps those in need. Carlos believes Kate should give up on her opponent, Morales, as she is too dangerous, but she persists, so he chooses to divulge what little knowledge he does have. El Diablo is the sniper, and because Morales hired him, he ought to be aware of where his hiding is. Carlos says he will get in touch with Karen if he learns anything more before departing. When Santiago finally detects something alarming, back at the SAF house, he phones Brandon quickly, and Brandon immediately goes to the roof with his own weapon. Santiago is right. The sniper is concealed in the distance. El Diablo and Brandon are now waiting tensely to see who fires first. El Diablo is the first to fire, but Brandon is the first to quickly sidestep the bullet and return fire. Brandon chooses to wait behind a wall after jumping out of the path in the hopes of tricking El Diablo into thinking he's dead. When the crew gets the bullet the next morning, they video call Miller to seek his opinion on the matter. With the use of laser guide technology, you may manipulate the trajectory of this intelligent bullet. It's possible that El Diablo isn't a former army member after all, or that he's not even a skilled shooter. The bullets are only carrying out his duties. Miller confirms Brandon's concerns by pointing out that this SAF house isn't particularly secure. Samson ends the discussion with a pledge to call the CIA and find a suitable place to stay. While this is going on, Morales is playing games with his boys in his safe haven. He instills in them the value of fighting for what is rightfully theirs through an extremely firm form of love, which causes many of them to fear rather than appreciate Morales. After that, Morales heads to his office with the intention of calling El Diablo, only to discover that the man is already seated in his chair. El Diablo demands payment for every opponent he has murdered, but Morales denies him, saying he didn't need to kill Kate or Brandon in order to finish the mission, and he banishes El Diablo from his home. The following morning, while driving to a new SAF house with Brandon, Kate gets a call from Carlos, who has learnt that El Diablo has a girlfriend. In addition to texting Kate the address, he warns her to exercise caution as Morales' men are in charge of the area. After hanging up, Kate informs Brandon that she has come to the conclusion that he is just interested in locating the sniper since his shots are superior to his abilities, and is not interested in the operation itself. Brandon acknowledges that it is true, but before he can say anything more, a truck runs over the automobile. When a group of Morales employees emerge from the truck and start shooting at them, Kate flees to find cover while Brandon and the police, who had been accompanying them, respond with gunfire. Not only do Santiago's thugs from Morales all die, but so do they. When Brandon realizes that Kate has left, he finds that she dropped her phone unintentionally over the car seat. The address Carlos sent is still visible in the text on the screen. Kate can sense there are a number of males watching her as soon as she gets to this seedy neighborhood. She knocks at the correct address and meets Maria, Morales' girlfriend, who, upon seeing Kate's badge, tries to shut the door right away. When Kate tries to stop her, Maria pushes her back so that Morales' men may catch her. This draws the attention of all the thugs who are now around Kate. When the men and Kate start fighting, even though Kate gets off a few hits, she is eventually overcome and pushed against the wall. Brandon arrives and starts shooting the goons as they queue up to take advantage of her. Several of them are killed, but one escapes on a stolen bike, and Karen is able to apprehend the final one. But before she can knock him out, Maria threatens to take a gun from her. Fortunately, Brandon surprises Maria from behind, creating a distraction that lets Kate disarm her. She also removes Maria's locket, which contains an image of her with El Diablo, from her neck. In addition to telling him they were ambushed earlier, which implies someone is still snooping on them, Brandon sends his father a picture of it so they may use face recognition software to search through the database. He and Kate won't even disclose the address to Beckett. They'll be hiding somewhere else until they figure out who they are hiding from. Samson is growing agitated about the whole thing at the station, and attempts to accuse Beckett dismisses the accusation that he is giving his son excessive control over the business. Kate makes a choice to drive Brandon to her former neighborhood, so Carlos can temporarily conceal them. The clergyman isn't astonished to learn that Morales, who is friendly with numerous influential people, has moles in the police, not to mention the numerous little offenders, who hold him in high regard. Kate understands that messing Carlos agrees to share, believing that Morales' network might force him to emerge from his hiding place. A few names he is aware of. The bodies of numerous men who work for Morales, including his banker, start turning up all around the town during the course of the next few days. Brandon, who has been killing every name Carlos could give, is the one who is responsible for all of this. Miller phones Beckett and informs him that Brandon is out of control, but Beckett is unable to locate his son. Carlos lends Brandon a sympathetic ear one evening, and learns about the Marine who passed away before it all began. Carlos notes that the only way to prevent such a death is to forgive yourself for the moral harm you've caused. Brando is still concerned that the same thing will happen to him. Meanwhile, Morales eventually makes his way out of his hiding place, but only to go to Maria's house in search of El Diablo. He promises El Diablo much more if he stops Brandon, since he is tired of losing guys, and pays him the entire amount he owes him in one go. Later on, Samson and Beckett give Miller an update on what they've learnt about El Diablo, revealing that he is actually an ex-sniper defense player named Enrique. 9 months ago, he traveled from Venezuela to Colombia, but once he crossed the border, they were unable to locate him. Miller disputes with Samson's request to remove Brandon and Kate from the operation, pointing out that they are now contributing more to the mission than anybody else. El Diablo learns everything there is to know about Father Carlos in the meanwhile when he pays off a man in the neighborhood to tell him where Kate and Brandon are hiding. Later that night, Kate gets a strange message from Carlos instructing her to meet him at the plaza at 10 o'clock. However, when Kate tries to phone him, he doesn't pick up. Since it's evident that this is some sort of trap, Kate and Brandon slip into a building in front of the square, and watch for any signs that El Diablo could be nearby. When a truck pulls up next to the park a few hours later, Kate knows the guys getting out of it are the thugs from Maria's neighborhood. After moving the truck, Kate and Brandon are surprised to see Carlos tied to a park tree. These men do something odd behind the truck before driving off again. Kate is about to leave to go save him when Brandon stops her, warning her that El Diablo is luring her in. In an attempt to save Carlos, Brandon shoots the rope, but his shot only grazes it, and reveals El Diablo's location. Luckily, Brandon gets a second shot in and frees Carlos before El Diablo opens fire on them, causing El Diablo to become so enraged that he decides to take revenge by shooting Carlos. The town, including Kate and Brandon, gathers the following day to bid the priest farewell. Brandon, who is hiding behind the throng, spots the man who rode away on a bike the other day and pursues him, following him through a few streets before apprehending him. The man puts up a strong front at first, but when Brandon tells him that Morales murdered the town's revered priest, the thug starts crying since Carlos used to support him when he was homeless as well. Following Brandon's assurance that the D will provide witness protection, the boy consents to divulge Morales' hiding place address. With this knowledge, Samson's squad finds Morales and apprehends him in a couple of minutes. He will now be sent to Miami for prosecution by an American federal court. Brandon is concerned that El Diablo could attempt to prevent Morales from traveling to Miami and reveal their secrets, and he is correct in his concerns. A few days later, El Diablo is traveling to the United States using an extremely lifelike, forged passport. He meets with his bullet provider, who has already sent him a car full of new weapons, after he clears customs without any problems. Watching Morales arrive in a government helicopter is Brandon, Kate, and Beckett at the Homestead Air Reserve Base in Florida. Then, knowing full well that El Diablo will attempt to launch an attack while Morales is being carried to Miami, they meet together with Miller to devise a defense strategy against him. Miller also tells them that El Diablo's mole wasn't with the Colombian police, but rather with the D because the bullets he uses have been vanishing from the agency's own vault. When Samson shows up to assist with the transportation, Brandon lays out the strategy for him. Their agents will lead a convoy that guards a car carrying a fictitious Morales, who will be traveling in a van that appears to be owned by a laundry service. In an attempt to trick El Diablo into disclosing his whereabouts, the convoy leaves the air base and heads for the road, where a gang of criminals is waiting, while Kate, Brandon, Miller, and Samson hide up on a roof to prepare for El Diablo. The convoy is surprisingly not attacked, The thugs appear to have known about the ploy all along because they only move in their automobiles when the van arrives. It is likely that the mole dispatched them to conceal his identity from Morel's confession. El Diablo waits for the van as well, and when he shoots it to stop it moving, the thugs get out of their cars and start shooting at the van. After Miller expertly dispatches all of these men, El Diablo fires one more time to ensure that all of the van's occupants have perished. After the van blows up, Brandon knows where El Diablo is, so it just takes a few seconds for him to be killed for good. As the convoy moves closer to Miami, it becomes clear that Morales was actually the man under the hood, and that the van had only been a ruse. Actually, the team used a remote control to move the van, which had been fully empty. It turns out that Samson has been the one providing information to Morales and El Diablo for the entire time, so Kate, Miller, and Brandon turn on him and want to arrest him. Samson attempted to refute it, but Miller's team had already gained access to his phone, and was only waiting to apprehend him in person because the text messages contained fictitious names and offered no evidence. This forces Samson to acknowledge his involvement and his work for Morales, as he believed that stopping the Kingpin would be the best course of action to avoid the detonation of an atomic bomb. Kate punches Samson in the name of Garza and Carlos because she can't believe so many people died for this. Miller leaves Samson and heads back to Washington. Beckett believes it's finally time for him to retire, having had enough action to last a lifetime. Before bidding his kid farewell, he gives him a big hug. In addition, he notes that Brandon and Kate get along well together, and that Brandon acknowledges that Maggie taking on the role of babysitter would not be such a horrible idea after all.